welcome to the channel. I will never forgive, nor will I ever forget, what these elites and government did during the pandemic, if you want to call it that. 3 weeks to flatten the curve, they said. But it just went on and on and on, didn't it? With no end in sight. And the amount of bullying tactics, intimidation, and psychological warfare that they used on us to try and get us to comply and take the potion was phenomenal. And unfortunately, a lot of people fell for it. And as a consequence of that, are now paying the ultimate price. But none of these people were willing to listen at the time, were they? All they cared about and all they believed was what was on the BBC. Some people just walk around this earth acting like NPCs. They've not got the ability to critical think, which is sad. And I mean, what did it take them? 10 or 15 years to make the flu vaccine? Yet this COVID, it's out in 6 months. And why people didn't question that is beyond me. I run it straight away, mate. I'm like, there's no fucking way. There's just no way. And I've spoken to many people that have took it. And you know what? Every single one of them regret taking it. They say to me, I just wish I would have listened. But at the time I couldn't, because I was so fearful. You see, these are the tactics that the government use. Fear being the main one. Excuse me. And when you're fearful, you tend to act and do things that you wouldn't normally do. Hence why I think a lot of people took it because of that. But there was a lot of people that just took it so they could go on holiday. I mean, how pathetic's that? Let's all take an experimental jab just so I can go on holiday. Come on, mate. That blew my mind. I spoke to a lot of people. I'm like, don't you get it? It's like, this is an experimental jab. And you've took it just so you can go on holiday. And by the way, this so-called virus has got a 99.98% survival rate. And have you forgotten you've got an immune system? Yeah, but like I said, people just cave in at the first hurdle, don't they? It's like, well, I can't not go on holiday, mate. You're not taking that away from me. And a lot of people before, they said, oh, I'm not taking it. I'm not going nowhere near that. But then when the government announced that you can't travel unless you've took it, mate, they were legging it to the vaccine centre. They soon changed their tune. It was pure madness. And I'd be sat in canteen on my break at work, like. And a bunch of lads would be sat behind me bragging about how many vaccines they've took. Oh, I've had the AstraZeneca. Oh, I've had the Pfizer. It didn't even hurt. I'm like, fuck it. Oh, mate. Oh. I just put my head in my hands, mate, and I was like, if only you knew. If only you knew. And this potion, it's been put under microscope by a lot of people. I mean, I don't know if you've watched videos about it on YouTube, TikTok, and other platforms. But, fucking hell, that sun's bright. I watched a video, I think it was about 3 weeks ago. This guy put the potion under a microscope and he found some right weird shit in it. And he claimed that there was nanobots in it and they was very smart and intelligent. And it was all done through the Wi-Fi and 5G. And they had the capabilities to make microchips in our bodies. If you know, you know. That's all I'm going to say about that. Because I can't go too deep on this because YouTube hates this kind of stuff. I'm not saying I believe everything I see. But it adds up, doesn't it? Everybody was talking about this. Or has been talking about this for years. It's similar to the MK Ultra. Like, they can alter certain frequencies. In essence, it's going to make us, you know, act differently or feel differently. Or can basically eradicate you. But I don't believe everything I see or hear, but it just stacks up, doesn't it? But it's just a conspiracy theory, YouTube. In the pandemic, it sent a lot of people do lally, didn't it? Especially the Karen types. You know, those people that would always shout at you if you've not got a mask on. Or fucking hop out your way like that. If you got too close. And start barking, 2 meters, 2 meters. Those type. They were everywhere, weren't they? That were a pandemic in itself. But I never followed any of the rules. Because none of it were backed by science. It were all fucking bullshit. It's like with your masks. What did Dr. Fauci, that imbecile, say at the start? They were useless. Unless you're wearing an N95 mask. Then he U-turned later on. Funny enough, didn't he? Then we got told to just wear freaking rags on his face. With holes that were bigger than a microscopic virus. So it didn't make any sense to wear one. But we all know why they wanted us to wear them. It was like to see how many people was complying with the bullshit. And see how many people was on board with it. It weren't about health. Like I said, none of it were backed by science. But I can remember rocking up at supermarket when I went shopping. And I always used to be greeted by a security guard. Because I didn't have a mask on, like. Oh, there's a box of masks there. There you go. I'm like, no, mate, I'm not wearing one. Why not? I'm exempt, mate. From fucking bullshit. That's why. Oh, okay. Says it doesn't state in law that I have to wear one. So it'd follow me around, but that were it. Like, I never got kicked out out like that. But the amount of sniggering and bad looks I got from what Karens for not wearing a mask were phenomenal. Like, you could see them all talking amongst each other. That's what it were like. Like I said, that was a pandemic in itself with people like that. They'd always shout at you. Put a mask on, just put a mask on. I'm like, it doesn't do anything. I'm perfectly healthy. Why would I want to muzzle up and restrict my oxygen? We're not meant to be doing that. It's like when people put masks on children. That to me is just sick. Why would you want to do that? Just doesn't make any sense, does it? But here we go again. It's the fear again, isn't it? The fear of the propaganda. And all the lies from the British Bullshit Corporation and all the others that put people in a state of fear. And it made them do silly things. And I bet a lot of people regret it now, don't they? Yeah. But it's like, there's nothing social about being distant. Well, what's that all about? Social distancing. And the amount of people that had sanitizer bottles in the car, they never bothered with it before. You know, even though the flu killed more people. Oh, no sanitizer then. But when the government says, oh, hand space and all this, they're straight on it, aren't they? It's like they're quick to comply because of the fear. Yeah, let's all sanitize skin off his hands. I never used that once. And the government tried to turn people against one another and create division by labelling people that didn't take the jab as granny killers. Unbelievable. You had neighbours turning on neighbours and snitching on people that never stuck to lockdown. I never stuck to lockdown because there was no way in hell that I was going to imprison myself and comply with this nonsense. So I made it my mission to go out every day. I don't know if you've heard of them. I had one of these little one-wheel things. It's like a little hoverboard kind of thing. I bought it just to get about, like. I can remember riding through a place called Clay Cross. There's a leisure centre. And as I were riding by, I saw a queue of youngsters, like. I kind of gathered what was going on. I thought, oh no, here we go. Yeah, you guessed it, they're all queuing up for potion. My heart just sunk. I thought, no, what are you doing? But I get it. You know, when you're young, you're not clued up, are you? I mean, some people are, but most people aren't. And I can remember riding past and I spoke to one of them. I says, don't you know this is an experimental jab? They're like, oh no, oh no. I'm like, just think about it. I says, mate, you've got an immune system. Have you forgot about that? And you're only young. What the hell are you doing? Queuing up for this. And you know what? It were like talking to a fucking brick wall. Just couldn't get no out of them, like. They were like stood there like scared little sheep. And he said to me, oh, I've been told to get it by my mum and my dad. I'm like, fucking hell. Oh, crazy, isn't it? But I felt for them, I really did, because at that age you can't really think for yourself, can you? And with everything, the propaganda and the fear that was on the news, most people just bought into it, didn't critical think, and didn't do any other research. I mean, I got labelled a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist for talking about all this. But all I were trying to do was wake people up and help them. Yeah, because some of the horror stories I heard from that, I'm not going to go into too much detail because you two don't like this. What was crazy, the amount of people that, as a result, and the amount of lives that got destroyed as a result of that is phenomenal. And I was just trying to help as many people, but it's like, why couldn't people see it for what it were? I mean, it were all bollocks. None of it made sense. It took them 6 months to make a freaking jab. Come on. That should have been enough in itself, shouldn't it? But people were like in a state of a trance. They were in their own little world. Because of the propaganda and the fear, it takes over you. You have to be a certain person to look beyond that. And think, critical think, and question everything, yeah? That's what you need to do. Always question everything. And never trust the government, ever. And it's like the government knew what was happening to do with that. But what did they constantly say? It's safe and effective. Oh, it's safe and effective. Fucking load of bollocks. And it's like these PCR tests as well. That weren't even accurate, were they? I can remember watching videos on TikTok and YouTube. People used to swab orange juice, swab Coca-Cola, swab work surface and whatever. And they'd all come back positive. So accurate though, weren't they? Fucking so accurate. Phone died. Hence why I'm recording the rest of the video in backyard. I can't be asked to walk back to the trail anyway. Let's continue. These PCR tests, they got amplified to the point where they could detect any remnants of a virus in your body. Could be flu. It could be many other things. But oh no, it was always COVID, weren't it? It's like you could get run over by a car, rock up at hospital, pass away, you'd get labelled a COVID death. You could die of an heart attack. Oh, it's a COVID death. Just because you tested positive. Yeah? To create the illusion that there was an emergency. That's why all the case rates went up and all the deaths went up. But it's like I said earlier on in video, when I saw people on TikTok and YouTube and other platforms swabbing work surfaces and Coca-Cola and all that. What, has Coca-Cola got the virus? And has your worktop got it? Come off it. But yet they were basing all these cases and infections and all that on these PCR tests. Come off it. But none of this was about health. It was all about control. And it was about a massive wealth transfer. And this was a big test, in my opinion, to see how many people would comply and would accept it and go along with the narrative and take the... Because what got me were, you know, they did their absolute best, didn't they? To try and gaslight you, to manipulate you, to put the fear in you, yeah? To make you take that. They wanted it so bad, didn't they? And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Why were they trying so hard to get that in us? I know the reason why. But I can't say it on YouTube because you know what they're like with all this crap. So I'll just have to leave it at that. But a lot of people was awake during that time. You know, we all lockdown protests. We had millions on the streets. I even went to a few marches. And the atmosphere were electric. So, and I think as a consequence of that, the government backed off with a lot of things. You know, with vaccine passports and other stuff. Because that would be further down the line now if we wouldn't have stood up and said no. So in essence, protests kind of do something, don't they? Even though the government pretend not to listen, but deep down they are listening. And then it frightens them to death when we all come together and unify and say no. It's like with this digital ID nonsense. We all know well, I know what that's about, and I hope you know what it's about. Yeah? It's not about stopping illegals coming over. How you stop illegals coming over is stopping them getting on the fucking boats in the first place. That's how you stop them, yeah? A digital ID isn't going to do that, and we know that, and we see straight through Keir Starmer's rubbish. Digital ID is all about them having total control over you and your finances. That's what it's all about. I mean, Keir Starmer even slipped up in India, didn't he? He said all your finances are going to be linked to it. We've known this for years. But I hope people learn from the lockdown times. And I hope people won't cave in at the first hurdle. I just hope people will stand strong and stick to the word and fight against this. Because this digital ID needs to be in place, ready for when it goes cashless. For when they destroy physical cash, yeah? And then it will back a lot of people into a corner and make them comply and use the digital ID. I mean, how they will try and implement this cashless society, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, if you've got any thoughts on it, feel free to drop it in comments like that. This digital ID stuff is the hill that we all must be willing to die on. I mean that. I just hope people will not succumb to the fear and act like they did during the lockdown and give in to all the propaganda, the fear-mongering, the gaslighting, the bullying. I hope people this time are going to understand and learn from the mistakes that some people made. And I hope we all unify and just say no, yeah? I tell you what, it's game over when we all say no and when we don't comply. And when the government start putting the pressure on, people still need to be in that same mindset. No backtracking or out like that. Stand strong, stand firm. That's what it's all about. That's the only way we can stop this. This is the elites and the government's worst nightmare, when we all come together and just say no. Because let's not get it twisted here. They need everybody to comply for this to work. But like I've said many times, just say no. Do not fucking comply. Yeah? This scares the life out of them. It puts a hold on the agenda and on their plans. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Massive thank you to everybody that likes, shares, subscribes, comment and all that good shit. I love you all. And hopefully I'll see you on my next video. Respect.